Hello, this is MrChabry, and today we're going to do sort of like a discussion type video. Something, that I think is something that's an interesting topic to touch on. And that is the state of certain Pokemon models, I guess you could say, or their sprites. But anyway, you might recognize this Pokemon. It's kind of hard to tell because it's kind of got some blurriness here. But this is actually Skarmory, and Skarmory is going to go into this little topic I'm going to talk about, and that is the topic of Pokemon models and how Sky Battle actually destroyed a lot of models and hurt a lot of Pokemon in their design model-wise. So yeah, here we have Skarmory, who's just you could tell just by looking at this thing, it's pretty intimidating, I guess. If you saw a bird just standing there like that, you'd probably be intimidated. But we're going to also look at Charizard. There's a lot of Pokemon that we're going to look at, but these two right off the bat are the two I want to point out. This is actually their model from Pokemon Stadium. You notice something about both of them? They're both standing on the ground. Now, let's look at what Skarmory looks like now. That's basically this right here. It's flying in constant flight. And the thing about that is it kind of, hurts the Pokemon design-wise, because it just has to hover here. And if you've seen Skarmory, its model, it doesn't really do much but just hover like that. Also, Charizard's model looks like this. You notice something else? It is constantly flapping its wings. You don't really get a sense of how powerful it is when it's doing that, I guess you could say. I mean, compare that to this. It's like here bracing its body ready to, shoot fire out of its mouth, versus, trying to flap its wings to stay in place. You can get a sense that, if this thing wanted to fly, it could fly and do a lot of stuff, whereas this thing, it kind of looks goofy trying to stay in place, and that's something that we're going to notice with a lot of these models. And the reason why that is Sky Battles. So let's touch on some Sky Battle stuff so I can explain to you what that is. This is a style of Pokemon battling that was only around in X and Y. I could say it was in Gen 6, but they took it out in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. They didn't even have it in that. They realized right off the bat how kind of dumb of an idea Sky Battles was, so they didn't even bother to put it in that game. But yeah, it's only in X and Y, and as you can see here, this is the little thing showing you. Basically, all Sky Battles was a Pokemon battle that was happening in the sky. Yeah, and that's really it. They said that they did it that way, so they can have more of a dynamic camera, but the only real difference between the battle camera as a normal battle and in the Sky Battle is sometimes you'd have the camera looking up at them, and that's really not a lot to say there. The only Pokemon that were able to do these battles were certain flying types and certain Pokemon with the levitate ability. So you see here Talonflame, who's obviously a flying type, and then we have Haunter, who has the levitate ability. And that kind of hurts some of these models, because as you see here, when you're having a battle up in the sky, you're going to have your Pokemon flapping its wings or hovering or something. Or it wouldn't make any sense if it was just standing there flat like that. So what they did with pretty much most of the flying types is they actually made it where they flapped their wings or hovered. But the thing is, that also applied to normal battles. So a lot of Pokemon kind of took a hit in their model design-wise. So yeah, you have Skarmory, who's just floating here like 2 feet off the ground, versus standing on the ground in Pokemon Stadium. It makes sense to have this like during a Sky Battle, but I feel like this has more power to it. You see this, you know more what it means. Same thing with this. This is a lot more... I feel like Charizard is a lot cooler standing on here. And when you see Charizard fly in the anime, it's like flying fast, not trying to just hover there like that. And we can look at some of these eligible Pokemon. The odd thing was, it was only specific flying types. So you see here Pidgeotto, Pidgeot, but you don't see Pidgey or Spearow. I don't know why they decided not to put those. And if you notice these Pokemon here, Pidgey and Spearow, I can pull up their sprite from those games as well, so you can get an idea. They didn't actually make them fly in the sky. They actually stand on the ground, which is an interesting thing that they did there. So basically, if the Pokemon was able to use Sky Battle, they actually made their model where they were off the ground. Some of them, it makes sense, like Zubat. That thing, you know, it always was shown like that, even in Stadium. Golbat in Stadium was on the ground, but it does look pretty cool flying. But some of these look a lot cooler on the ground. And some of the Pokemon, like, it didn't, like Gengar, it had Levitate, but it wasn't able to be used, which is a weird thing. They actually did take Levitate off of it in Gen 7, but it's just odd that, you know, this thing had Levitate but wasn't allowed to be used. Hawlucha was another one. These Pokemon are not shown flying or hovering in normal battle. And that is the key difference here. Also, so Sky Battles had weird rules. So if they Mega Evolve, they don't lose that. If they're holding any of the Iron Ball or Air Balloon, that doesn't affect anything. Roost won't make them land. It's weird stuff like that. We can scroll down and see all these Pokemon, but they're basically flying types. That's another thing. Mantine's a flying type, and it's on there. Flygon, we're going to talk about Flygon when we scroll. Tropius, I feel like, is the worst Pokemon when it comes to Pokemon that were affected by this. And we will touch on some of these Pokemon. There's some moves that won't even work while doing Sky Battles. Body Slam, Bulldoze, moves that usually, you know, take advantage of the ground, I guess you could say. Of course, ground-type moves aren't going to work up in the sky, but some grass-type moves don't, like Frenzy Plant. The animation of that shows the plant going into the ground, so maybe that does make sense. But there's some that, surf maybe, I guess. How you can get water up there, but it was just a thing that kind of, it just added a lot of complications. I mean, you have to remember all these moves don't work during Sky Battles. And yeah, the ones where you actually like use your body to attack someone, like body slam, I guess. It just doesn't make sense, some of these. And SmackDown, the only reason that doesn't work is because the opponent would be on the ground, quote unquote. But they couldn't have done that. So it's just a lot of stuff that they had to implement just to make this work, and it didn't. All it was a battle against specific Pokemon that you could only bring specific Pokemon to. So it didn't even do much. All it did, though, is it did leave a mark on some of these Pokemon. We'll look at some others. Xatu here, standing on the ground. It looks very mysterious. Looks pretty cool. They've done this to its model. It's in constant flight. Flygon, also on the ground. Now it's in constant flight. Same thing with Tropius, and I feel like Tropius is the worst when it comes to this. Here it is, standing on the ground. It is a flying type, but you look at this, you can probably guess that it doesn't spend a lot of time flying. If it does fly, it probably just flies location to location and spends most of its time on the ground. However, since it is eligible for Sky Battle, it actually has to be flying. And this looks terrible. Like, you're going to tell me this thing is flying nonstop? I mean, it's a weird flying type, but it is a flying type. And in Gen 7, they did take note that this was an issue. Toucanon, we'll look at that real quick. I want to pull that up. So Toucanon was a flying type. If it was in Gen 6, it would have been able to be used during, sky battles, obviously. And it would have probably had a weird model where it was, in constant flight. But luckily for it, it came in time after sky battles. And they made it a grounded sprite, which looks so much better than what it would have looked like if it was constantly in the sky. So yeah, I think they did realize that it was kind of dumb to make flying types and levitate users have to be off the ground for their sprite. This looks so much better than this, and this looks so much better than this. And I want to give a shout out real quick here. I'll put a link to this person's video in the description. But this person here, Distant Kingdom, actually made a video where he fixes some of these models here. So you can see here, Skarmory's model has been changed to be on the ground. And this person actually has some other ones where he does the same thing. So I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. But yeah, he's got Wingull and this one, Charizard, who I think's a big one. And Flygon, I kind of touched on those too. But yeah, if you want to check that out, I'll leave that in the description. And with that, we're going to go ahead and... What do you think? I'm going to turn it to you guys. What do you think about how Sky Battles kind of destroyed some of these models? How they don't look as great as they once did? What do you guys think they should do going forward? I think in I know the next games, it's going to be Gen 8 probably. They're not going to do anything probably. But I'm hoping in Gen 9 they actually do change some of these models back to, grounded models. Because some of these Pokemon really need grounded models. Because this is kind of unbearable seeing it in battle. It needs to look like this. If you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. I will see you in the next Pokemon video.